All right, now, so when you look at the culture and tradition of the Israelites, you see that the requirement in the law was to have uh, tokens of virginity, and that was for security purposes for the father and the woman. All right, but also so that somebody wouldn't be put to death for committing fornication and adultery. All right. So, but what we're gonna get into the tradition. What we're gonna deal with right now is this issue with this specific verse, Matthew 1 verse 18. And so, people isolate came together. All right. Now, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna show precepts that have the exact same phrase came together or assembled together. Okay. But most of these are gonna have the same exact words. All right. So one of the first precepts that I want to get to help edify and show that came together does not mean to have sex is Mark chapter 7 verse 1. All right. And it reads, then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. All right. So we see right here that the same phrase is used, but it's not being used to describe them having sex. It's just talking about a group of people assembling themselves together. And the context that it's going into in Matthew is talking about before they were espoused. While they were espoused, but before they all came together, meaning Joseph's father and their mother and family members, and Mary, her father, her mother, and their family members, came for the marriage feast, she was found with child, meaning they had sex before it was the approved or appropriate time for them to do so. Now you got to understand this. It is not against the law to have sex before a marriage ceremony. That just means that you're now married, but you did not go through the ceremony. But it also means that you're not going to have the proper tokens of virginity. All right. So when the issue arises, there could be something that goes on. But if you follow other portions of the law, you won't have to worry about that. Because see, what was going to have to happen was Joseph was going to have to pay a dowry to Mary's father, but he was already promised to her, so it ended up being that they just messed it up. All right. So if her father hadn't approved of him doing it that way, he would have had to still pay the dowry. Okay. Now, just gonna follow some more precepts of came together. Now we're gonna go to Luke chapter 5 verse 15. But so much more went there a fame abroad of him, and great multitudes came together to hear and to be healed by him of their infirmities. Here we go again. That same phrase came together used, and it's not talking about somebody having sex. You're going to see that the phrase came together never is in reference to having sex, all right? Let's go to Luke 22, verse 16. 22 verse 6. And it reads, and he promised and sought opportunity to portray him unto them in the absence of the multitude. All right. So here we go again. That it's not talking about when it's mentioned in that phrase, because when you go into the Greek, when it mentions that phrase, it's not talking about people having sex. All right. Then we're going to go to Luke 23 verse 48. And all the people that came together, here we go again, to that sight, beholding the things which were done, smote their breasts in return. Got nothing to do with having sex. And it just goes on and on. Let's just go to Acts. Let's go after Yahawashi died. Let's see if coming together after he dies means to have sex. Acts chapter 2, verse 6. Now, when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speaking his own language. All right, it's getting very clear and repetitious at this point. All right, but we're gonna go through a few more verses. All right, let's go to Acts chapter 15, verse 6. And it reads, and the apostles and elders came together for to consider of this matter. All right, the last one that I'll give. Acts chapter 20, verse 7. And upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech until midnight. All right. Excuse me. So we see right here various different occasions that was going on. All right. Whether it was apostles meeting together, Pharisees meeting together, multitudes of people meeting together, but the phrase came together simply was only referring to, in every case, used to describe a group of people coming together in one place. All right. So when you read Matthew 1 and 18, the spouse meant that they were still living in separate households, but Mary was promised to Joseph from her father. It's letting you know that she was pregnant before they came together, meaning before they had the feast with both families coming together. All right. So I just want to get a little back history to show that it was customary in Israel for there to be a wedding feast. All right, even before the time of the Mosaic law. All right. So let's go to Genesis 29, verse 20. All right. Now let's see what happened with our forefather. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. All right. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. All right. But see, it was supposed to be a specific amount of time. And it was actually customary in Israel, after we were given the law and everything, when we were in the land, that usually a young man, I believe starting around the age of 12, 14, 15, something like that, would actually be espoused to a woman. All right. But he would work for that woman's father until he was 20 or whatever, or until he had fulfilled a certain amount of time. And then he would actually, after fulfilling that, they would have a big feast, and he would give his daughter to him as payment. But it was more so to ensure that his daughter was given to somebody that could actually take care of her. All right. So it would be like he would already have his house, the substance, the cattle, and all those things, and then they would come together. Okay. But that was just something that was done later on. But here we're going to read our forefather Jacob. What did they do? Okay. Now, so we see right here in Genesis 29 and 20 that Jacob told Laban, I've done what I was supposed to do. I want my wife. All right, so let's see what Laban did. We'll jump down to verse 22. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. All right. And this was done, and the reason why I specifically mention all the men as well here is because this was so that everybody would know from that point on, this is Jacob's wife, okay? You cannot have sex with this woman because it will be considered adultery. We even see that in the earlier days of man, even when you go back to Abraham, that when he went with Abimelech, even Abimelech knew that to lay with Abraham's wife Sarah while he was still alive would have been adultery. That's why they said that, that's why Abraham was afraid that they would kill him, all right? Because even the heathen at that time or the Gentiles at that time, they even knew not to commit adultery, and that was big with them. Today's society is gone way downhill, and nobody really cares. But when you go back in the old times with Abraham, even the heathen knew. All right, this is why he was afraid that they would kill him for it, because it would make no sense if they could just take his wife and have sex with her. They would have tried to. They knew that as long as a man liveth, his wife is due unto him. All right, or she's bound by that marriage covenant. Now, um, so the reason for the celebration was so that the father's name and the daughter's name would be kept intact. All right, um, and their integrity would be upheld. Now, an example of what would happen if things weren't done the correct way, we see happen with uh, Jacob's daughter at Shechem. All right. Um, when you go and you read that story, you see that all types of problems arose from Shechem laying with Dinah without the permission of Jacob, and also by defiling her in that manner. Okay, so go back and you can read that story, and you'll understand what will happen if you don't have your marriage ceremony, or what could happen. Okay, like I said, it's not a requirement, but it shows you the type of situations and instances that can happen when you don't do things righteously. All right. Uh, so we're gonna move on. So let's just read real quick what happened during the marriage feast. All right. So this is Genesis 29 verse 23. All right. So as they're having the feast, everybody's having a good time and everything. It says, and it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. All right, see, that means that they had sex, okay?